I just had our fourth child, and I am finally getting back into the swing of things, especially back to homemaking and doing things around the kitchen and cooking. And one of the things that I changed in my kitchen this year, as of 2024, has been to cook as much meals as I can from scratch and to eliminate store-bought bread. I actually can't even believe that I'm transitioning and doing this with a newborn child, but it's just been something that I've been wanting to do and a conviction that's been on my heart. And I had done this, I think, once or twice before, and I felt like it was just so much work, and it felt so intimidating to me to cook from scratch and just buy my own, and not buy bread from the store, but to make my own bread and to make my own rolls. And I think one of my goals and my prayers for 2024 is for the Lord to help me to work with my hands better. I feel like there's so many skills as homemakers that, as a homemaker for me, that I just never experienced or learned. And these are basic things that we would learn back in the days. We would learn how to make bread from scratch. People didn't buy things, as often as we do now. Like things weren't as convenient. And I think even though convenience is a beautiful and wonderful thing, I also think that convenience has made us not as capable maybe, or not as knowledgeable as the homemakers of the past. Maybe that's a weird thing to say, and some people might not fully agree, but I feel like for me, I would love to learn how to make things from scratch and to have those skills to be able to pass down to my children, and to just also enjoy things that we made. When you make something and you see the fruit of your labor, it is so much more enjoyable. And that is, I don't know, I have been inspired by just reading the Bible and how many verses you see in the Bible of them breaking bread together and making bread. And and bread is such a significant thing. And so I really wanted to learn how to make bread this year, and I am so excited to share this recipe with you guys, because I found this easy recipe in JoAnna Gaines's cookbook, and I will link the cookbook down below. I am actually also going to make ciabatta bread, because I've been also making sandwiches for my husband for lunch, and so we need bread for sandwiches. And I really love ciabatta. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but it's super easy to make, and it is like one of my favorite breads to use in sandwiches. And I'll share a quick recipe with you guys at the end. But I'm basically taking 5 cups of flour, and I'm putting it in my mixer bowl there. And if you guys don't have one of these, I seriously highly recommend you guys get it, because once you have one of these in your kitchen, baking is so much easier. This is actually it's my first year owning a mixer like this. I actually never owned one before, and my husband got me one for Christmas, I believe last year. And I seriously use this thing all the time, multiple times a day. I make muffins with it. I use it to make literally everything, and it just makes everything so much easier. So I took 5 cups, I think 5 or 6 cups of all-purpose flour. I added 1/3 cup of sugar. I also used 2 tablespoons of sugar for the yeast, to activate the yeast in the water. And then I'm taking some kosher salt, as you guys can see there, and I think I use about 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. I don't have all of the ingredients on the top of my head, but I will try to link them in the description if you guys are interested in making these rolls for yourself and for your family. They are seriously so delicious, super easy to make, so fluffy, and it makes, like I said, it just is so easy to use this KitchenAid mixer to make them. You just put in your dough hook, and you wait until it pulls away from the mixer, like it pulls away and forms into a dough. You don't want the dough to be super stiff. You want it to kind of be soft, like visibly look soft and buttery. But if it's being too sticky, I would recommend that you add flour with the just 1 or 2 tablespoons of flour at a time. Don't go crazy and dump a whole bunch of flour. That was the first time I made this. I made that mistake of just doing that. Sometimes I will use bread flour if I ran out of all-purpose flour, and I just mix bread flour and all-purpose. I did notice though when I use bread flour that I need to use more flour. Maybe it's just lighter or denser or something, but yeah, bread flour is also really good with this. But I feel like all-purpose flour is my go-to flour when I make breads. I don't know why, I just feel like it looks better, it tastes better, it's a better feel. And I just prefer to use all-purpose. The recipe actually calls for all-purpose, but I just throw all the ingredients in the kitchen mixer, and then I add 1 cup of milk and 1/2 cup of milk that it's warmed up. So once you add your yeast mixture into the KitchenAid mixer and it's going, you also add the milk in there, and make sure that the milk is actually warm. My milk, I try to make it around like 95-degree Fahrenheit. You don't want it to be too hot because then it might kill the yeast. And then I add 2 eggs into the bowl. I just crack them right into the bowl, and then I turn on the mixer and start mixing it. And then I'm going to add some butter as well. I feel like butter is the key. When you add butter to any sort of bread recipe, it just makes it so much fluffier and so delicious. I actually make white bread from scratch, which I will share with you guys in a different video, but it's my go-to bread that I make every single time. We use it for peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or just whatever. The kids just absolutely love it. They'll literally eat it without anything. But yeah, butter makes everything so soft and so good. My husband came up with this really great idea for our microwave to be like where we rise all of our bread. He told me if I put some water in a cup and I add and I put like a chopstick in there, as you guys can see, this is a DIY like rising station, which is really funny. So I have this cup full of water. I just put water in the cup, and then I put a wooden chopstick stick inside of the cup, and then I put this in my microwave and turn it on to 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then once the microwave has been going for 2 or 3 minutes, I put my yeast bread in there to rise. The temperature inside of there is controlled, it's humid, it's small, and it literally rises within 30-40 minutes. So I'm just going to take a little bit of vegetable oil, which I used in the recipe. I wouldn't take a different oil than I use. Like for example, if in the recipe I used vegetable oil, I'm not going to use olive oil to put on my bread, like, you know, while it's rising in there. I'm going to use vegetable oil. But if I used olive oil, say if I was making a pizza dough and I used olive oil for my pizza dough, I'm going to use olive oil to, you know, put around my mixer and just put it in there. I don't know if that makes any sense, but just a quick little bit of vegetable oil and then just put it around all the edges in there, so when it rises it kind of doesn't stick. I also have my little toddler just hanging out. It's my favorite thing. The kitchen is a total chaos right now because I have kids playing around in the playroom doing puzzles, just doing a whole bunch of stuff, and then I have my 2-year-old that just loves to follow me around in the kitchen. And one day she is going to be so well in the kitchen because she loves to watch me make things. But this is why I make these videos this style. You guys can see me looking out and trying to keep an eye on the kids as well. And this is just like chaos around this time, around 2 or 3 o'clock, when we are done with homeschooling and mommy's making some food. I'm getting ready for dinner. Maybe I'm prepping something for the next day. And the kids are having free play, and our house is so loud, but it is filled with so much joy. So now I'm going to take a scale and I'm gonna get ready to make the ciabatta bread. And I'm just filling up a cup of water, and I'm gonna put the water in the microwave to heat it up because I want to use warm water when I'm adding water to my flour and my yeast. I just feel like the warm water helps the yeast to activate quicker. So I'm just for this recipe, I believe I use instant yeast. I think I used instant yeast for this recipe. I will link it down below, all the recipes, all the things that I use. But yeah, for this recipe I use all-purpose flour and yeast, and I am using a kitchen scale because I want to get I want it to be accurate. This recipe calls, I believe it's a 80% hydration, and I don't know how to like explain that really well, but basically the dough is going to be really sticky. It's going to be really well hydrated dough, and you want to get all of the ingredients right, and you want to get the measurements of everything right. I don't want it to be too much flour, and I don't want it to be too much water where it is too sticky, too runny, and it's not gonna form well. So I'm just gonna add, I think it's 520 grams or 500 grams of flour, and I'm gonna add about 400, maybe 500 grams of water. I'm gonna zero out the scale, and then I'm gonna start adding my water in really slowly. I don't wanna mess that part up and add too much water, although it is a little bit simple to take it out. If I add too much water, I can just use I just use a little bit of a spoon and just start scooping out some of the water. So after I do that, I'm going to add my yeast, and I'm going to just hand mix it. I'm actually going to hand mix this. I'm not going to use my KitchenAid mixer to mix the ciabatta bread. I'm just going to hand mix it, do some stretch and folds here. I'm trying to get all of the water incorporated into the dough, or into the flour, so that the flour is all everything gets hydrated and wet. So I'm just going to do some folds and stretches, and then I'm going to use the shower cap. So my secret is shower cap. I know a lot of people use towels, but I, for some reason, find shower caps to just be super easy for me to cover my bowls with when I'm letting them rise. You can get in a huge bag of shower caps from Amazon and keep it in your kitchen, which is what I do. I just buy a bag of shower caps, I keep it in my kitchen, and then whenever I need to cover something, I'm able to just put the shower cap on top of it. Now that my rolls are out, I'm just gonna punch not punch it super hard, but just push it down, release some of that air, and it's gonna deflate, as you guys can see. And then as soon as I get all that air released, I'm going to start forming them into balls so we can start making our rolls. And I have my kitchen scale there again. I want to form these into 42 gram balls, because I found that 42 grams is the perfect size. I think you can get about 32 more or more rolls out of this, but you can make it bigger. You can make your rolls a little bit bigger if you want bigger rolls, but I like mine at 42 grams. I like them to, they rise. We're gonna have our second rise here soon. Once you put them on the baking sheet with the parchment paper, I'm gonna cover them, and then they're gonna rise. And once you got that good rise out of them, then you can pop them in the oven. And right here, as you guys can see, I am showing you guys all the balls that I made, and I'm so excited. As you guys can see here, I am covering my dough up, and I'm gonna let it rest for 40 minutes, and then I'm gonna start doing stretch and folds for my ciabatta. I'm gonna wet my hands. I'm not gonna use oil for this because I want this to be a well-hydrated piece of dough. I want it to have bubbles, and so I'm just going to use a little bit of water. I'm going to get my hands wet a little bit, and I'm going to start doing stretch and folds. And I don't know if you guys can notice or see how well this dough looks, but it seriously stretches so well. And I think the reason for that is probably the water. You want the gluten to be broken down, so you're stretching these and folding them, and I'm gonna do this for 2 to 3 minutes, just stretch and fold and put it in a ball, try to tighten it up. I want as much like tension in that piece of dough as possible so that it rises well, and it also I want those air bubbles. So every 30 minutes I'm going to take that dough out, stretch and fold it, and then cover it back up and put it back in my microwave, and do that 6 times. And then after that, I am going to shape the dough, and I'll show you guys what we do. But right now we're going to pop our rolls in the oven, because we are multitasking mamas and we are always multitasking, doing multiple projects at once in the kitchen. Yeah, so here are our rolls. Do you guys see how beautiful they look? I just took a piece of unsalted butter, and I'm just rubbing that butter all over those really, really warm, just out of the oven rolls, and they are melting so well. I'm pretty much using my hands at this point because I just wanted to get as much butter on there as possible. But you guys, they were so good and so fluffy. I don't know if you guys can see them there, but seriously, they were delicious. The kids wanted to eat them. They could not wait to eat them. It's really hot. It literally piping hot. It just came out of the oven. I put it in the oven at 400 or 350 degrees for 25 minutes, and they come out this crispy golden color on the top, and the inside is so fluffy and so yummy. And my kids can eat like 2 or 3 of these rolls, so they're gonna go by so quick. As you guys can see, my husband's filling up all the water bottles in the back. We are getting ready for dinner. Everything else is on the table, and the kids are just waiting for the rolls. So here are the rolls, and we're gonna go and take the rolls to them, and they are going to just devour like most of these rolls, which makes my heart so happy that they love them so much. And now after dinner, we are going to get right back into the ciabatta bread. So I'm going to lightly dust my surface here. Obviously my hands are clean. The surface is clean. I wiped everything down before we're doing this. And then I'm going to get my dough out of the microwave and remove it. So I already did my stretch and fold, and then I put it back in there for 30 minutes. So now I'm just going to try to put it in a rectangle shape. As you guys can see, this dough has so many good bubbles. There's so much bubbles in there, or I don't know if you guys can tell. I'm moving really gently and working with it in an awkward way just because I don't want to pop any of those bubbles. I want to keep them for as long as possible. I want them to rise and have as many bubbles as possible, but there's a really good bubble right there. I don't know if you guys can see it, but yeah, I'm just going to put this in a rectangle shape, and I'm just going to fold it up now into like a little burrito and just roll it. And then I'm going to cut it. So this makes like maybe 3 or 4, but I'm just going to cut it. As you guys can see, do you see the inside of that dough? It's so well hydrated. It has so many air bubbles in there. And now I'm just going to put them on this piece of parchment paper and let them do their second rise on this piece of parchment paper. And then after we do that, I am going to cover them up and then let them rise on the countertop and then pop them in the oven. And here they are. Once they are done, they look so good, so delicious. I was able to get 4 rolls out of them, which is great, which means that's 2 days of lunch for my husband and I. I usually make sandwiches and I put them in the fridge for me to eat, and I'll usually put it in the fridge for him to take in the morning. But as you guys can see, I'll show you guys how I make my sandwich. You guys are gonna love this recipe. There's only one ciabatta bread left in this bag at this point because we already had the other 3, and this was the last one, and I was making a sandwich for myself. I am going to make this sandwich really fast because I had a baby that I just put down for a nap, and I didn't want to wake the baby. I wanted to get lunch in my belly as soon as possible. So I'm using the same knife. I wipe it and whatnot, but I am using the same knife. I'm also using a steak knife. I was just trying to get this lunch on the plate as quick as possible, but it looks so good. Do you guys see that ciabatta bread? This is after like a day or 2, and it's still really well hydrated. I keep it in a bag on my countertops for 2 to 3 days, and it was so yummy. I'm going to put some mayonnaise on both sides of the bread, and then I'm going to add some pesto. That is my favorite combo for sandwiches, mayo and pesto. You cannot go wrong with mayo and pesto. The basil pesto, you can make it yourself. I bought mine from the store. I don't have any fresh basil that I can use to make this, but I do buy mine from the store. It's really good. Once I added the basil pesto onto this, I'm going to add chicken. You guys can't see it in the clip here, but I love buying the rotisserie chicken from Costco. Someday we will have our own meat chickens, and I will share that with you guys then. But as of right now, I got this rotisserie chicken that I got from Costco. I also wanted to, once we are done eating the meat off of this chicken, I'm going to try to make chicken stock out of it, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, so I just heated up this rotisserie chicken on the stovetop really quickly, and then I'm going to put it on the ciabatta bread on top of the mayo and pesto, and then I'm going to take some arugula, and I'm going to take some tomatoes, and I pickle red onions. I don't know if you guys have ever tried this, but I found it in a recipe, pickled red onions with oregano and all sorts of other yummy, delicious things. Like I think there's oregano in there. I don't know what else is in there. Maybe it was just oregano, red wine vinegar, and olive oil. I have to double check the recipe. I'll link it down below. But yeah, so I just pickled these onions and they sit on the countertop in a mason jar, and it just is the most delicious thing ever. You can throw it on any sandwich that you're making and you will not regret it. I'm telling you, you will not have any regrets. That pickled onion, it is so good. My husband absolutely loves it, and I put it on everything when I'm making sandwiches for us. So I took some arugula, put the pickled onions on top of it. There you have the tomatoes that I cut up, and there you have it, guys. A yummy, delicious, from scratch lunch, and it is so delicious. I have never had something so good. You know, when you buy sandwiches from the store, the pre-made sandwiches, it does not compare to this at all. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. That is all that I have for you guys. And I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye.